Wellness.
Welcome back to episode 588. And this is your fractional report right before the Super Bowl. Really excited and wanted to give a shout out to Collectable, our sponsor for this. I love the show. I know you do as well. So hopefully we'll provide a little bit of value. You guys enjoy your evening, watch the game, have some fun. Cage, I want to start with one of two topics. Both I think you're going to love.
Yes.
One is there was a buyout offer for the Giannis National Treasures, a card you talked about, in a PSA 9.
Yep.
Buyout offer, $140,000. Second thing we could talk about, IPOing this week. I think this is going to be an IPO that you're tempted to get in on yourself. And I know you haven't invested before, but the Babe Ruth, you saw it, right? The Type 1?
Yep. Yeah.
And
amazing. On Tuesday.
And what's cool is we talked about that Type 1 photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it went for significantly more than that IPO price. Significantly more.
Yep.
So that's a buy from any angle. So which one of those do you want to talk about first, and then we'll go through all?
I love that. I love the IPO. I do. I love the IPO. I love the there's a couple of really good IPOs coming out this week. Especially if you're like a game worn NBA type of guy. But yeah, I think we would be doing a disservice to the fans of Fractional, the fans of Collectable, if we didn't start off this episode of the Fractional Report, brought to you by Collectable, before the opening bell, without talking about just the flurry of buyout activity. And that can mean only one thing, unless you tell me a different thing. We've argued a little bit this week, guys. If you just someone who tunes in on our fractional stuff, you should listen to some episodes. There have been some epic rants by yours truly in some of our episodes. Yesterday's was a good example. You tune into that, you're gonna be an everyday listener. So anyway, take a listen. Here's the thing we have to talk about. It's not just the Giannis buyout at 145, right? It's the Frank Robinson buyout, 57 tops. That was approved, $96,000 buyout offer. The Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Magic Johnson triple jersey auto, that's frozen. Shareholders approved $130,000 buyout on that. And it seems like we're continuing to get emails of, hey, offer, hey, this is. And I believe that what we're seeing there is more people are paying attention to some of the trading prices and some of the market value. They're seeing comps on some of these similar cards, other cards like that, other players like this. And one of the things we said when we started doing this was, people are chasing after some of the best cards. And the cards that you see on Collectable and part of fractional trading are things that you just don't walk into a card show and see. They don't pop up on weekly auctions, monthly auctions that often. So if you have somebody coming in looking to build up a portfolio of the best cards and buy a Giannis National Treasures, for example, this is one of the only, if not the only method to go and grab that card, because there's just not that many of them. So I think, we really do.
So what you're saying is like big time buyers, right? Before they would look at maybe one or two places, let's just say 2-3 years ago. Now big time buyers, they have their list of like 5 different auction houses and 2 or 3 fractional websites, fractional marketplaces to go to actually look for deals.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, it's not just about the deals, right? I mean, the auction houses, the eBays, the PWCCs, Goldens, you name it, they're great. They have a lot of auctions now, but the high end stuff is what's moving. Like, how many times have we talked about it, or we've heard other, sports card folks talk about how this person's index is up or this person's index is flat, but if you look at the cards everyone's buying, they're down. Look at Luka, right? We talk about this, right? Look at Luka's cards. His cards are down for the vast majority of people who have Luka cards. His silver is down, his base is down. His selects and optics and they're all down, but you see records being set on the National Treasures cards, right? Zion hasn't played all year. His cards are down, his base is down, his silver is down, but we just saw a record price for his National Treasures card. So even though
those cards the bellwether cards, or is that just because the buyers of those cards play in a different stratosphere where they're making money, more and more and more and more money?
Both. Both, but I think you've nailed it on both fronts, but both of them lean towards the type of asset that fractional is there for, right? You're able to get in instead of buying a silver. You're able to buy shares of the higher end card. You're able to put that same investment in here, and the higher end buyers, the people who want to come in and take that actual full card, there's not that many people who could do that, but the ones they have to look here because that card is not on eBay. You wanted National Treasures Giannis, here it is, and not to mention, it's also trading below market value. You know what I mean? Look at those buyouts, right? The last trading on the Jordan, LeBron, and Magic, last trading 106,000, approved at 130. Last trading 123 after going up. Look at the IPOs on these things on the Giannis 123, 145 buyout offer. People are recognizing the difference between market price and with all the comps that are out there. I mean, we go through these every week, but for example, like that 93 Gaudi Ruth SGC, right? We saw the 288 Heritage sale. We've talked about this card a couple times, and last week it was up 7%, but this week back down 13%, right? Market cap of 177 against the recent sale of 288. It's not the kind of card that shows up all the time, right? It's not the kind of card that shows up every week. It's not going to be in your weekly auctions. You're not going to walk in and get an SGC 33 Gaudi Ruth at your local card store. So if you got somebody who comes in and says, that's the card I want to buy in a high grade, and they say, well, the last one sold for 288 at Heritage, it's the kind of card that you can see having a buyout offer for. And there's a ton
So
of
what are investors missing with something so obvious like that right in front of their eyes, right? You have 288 for the same card. I appeal, let's add in 10, 20%, both directions. How do you explain that? How are investors missing that on fractional? But Heritage clearly, shows that this is a $280,000 card.
Right. So remember, one comp, we talk about that. One comp is just one comp, and you may have had two people who were bidding for that card, and we're willing to bid that one up. You don't get a lot of sales of these things, but you do get a lot of sales of 33 Gaudis, and not SGC, some PSA, some SGC. Not every card's the same, and you do have 4 different routes in that set. So there's there are other options, but I don't have an answer for you on that. That is a pretty clear discrepancy. It was an SGC 8 versus an SGC 8. Obviously, they, every card is different. Not every card within a grade is the same. Even SGC, I'm sure, would admit that they have, 8s that fall in a range. You know what I mean? So, that's probably part of it. And all it takes is one buyer. Like, why was the Giannis not scooped up 2 weeks ago? Right? He's performing
They
great.
probably listened to our episodes and they heard the expert opinion on Giannis and they heard the casual fans' opinion on Giannis and they said, we're going to sign with the expert. I'll tell you another thing that's really sticking out to me.
Shoot.
And we could come back to this topic, but
yeah, let's get back to Giannis too.
Patch matters more than I initially would have thought. And it's one of those things where sometimes you have to pay a premium when you're buying a nice card with a nice patch. But I think if I've learned anything, it's that a nice patch adds a premium. So why do I say that? This is anecdotal, but the Mahomes National Treasures laundry tag RPA 1 of 1, it dropped again 10%. It's down basically 50%. Yep. So you would say, okay, that's obviously because it's Mahomes. He's out of the playoffs, all that. Well, it's not the case because his other card rebounded this week 15%. His National Treasure RPA BGS 8.5 rebounded by 15%. And I think it's one, people don't like that laundry tag patch, but I think in a bigger sphere, and I think that Giannis patch is very nice, the one that they offered a buyout on. Patch matters. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree? I know you're not a big patch auto.
No. I mean, it definitely does matter. It's why you see people messing with cards like the LeBron Exquisite, which is a 7-figure card, even with a white patch, trying to mess around and put, other patches in it. You know what I mean? Multicolor patches. So 100%, it definitely adds something to it. And patches do matter. Patches do matter 100%. And the card matters, right? I mean, people, I believe, even though the laundry tag RPA is a 1 of 1, right? I mean, but clearly it's not the 1 of 1 people want. I mean, it's not. There are different 1 of 1s, which is amazing to say, right? 1 of 1 should be the one, right? And Mahomes, it's a tough one, right? I mean, the one that went up, it really didn't even recover half of what it went down the week before. So yes, it's going up, but remember, it had a heck of a drop the week before. And what you're seeing now is football. This is what happens. This is what happens as football season ends. I mean, today's the Super Bowl. And, it wasn't just Mahomes going down. Justin Herbert's National Treasure was down another 7% this week after being down 7% the week before, 10% the week before that. you have he's not playing. He didn't make the playoffs, and you used to have a clear-cut number one QB last year. It was Justin Herbert, and now Joe Burrow might win a Super Bowl, and he's definitely at least playing in one. So, are the Herbert people saying, let me take some of my Herbert money off the table and put it in Burrow? Not exactly the right time to do that, because Burrow's cards are running, but you are seeing a decrease.
Can I share a thesis with you? A theory
Please.
I have.
Please.
So typically when assets, and we talk any assets run, there are the people that, wish they would have got in, but they didn't, right? Mm-hmm. They missed the boat. They wanted to buy, but they didn't. And what I think will happen with Mahomes, and it goes along the same narrative cave that we've had, that people are noticing discrepancies between trading prices, and you're going to start seeing more and more buyout momentum. Mm-hmm. I think the same thing will happen with Mahomes cards. A lot of people missed the boat on Mahomes, and I think we're going to see a huge correction in this offseason, followed by a flurry of buyouts with people who have money, who have really nice cards, who have collections, and they're like, I missed the boat on Mahomes, but I'm not going to miss again. That second wave of buyers. I think we'll see that if we continue to see Mahomes cards keep dropping week over week over week. So that's not one that I would say you have to jump into. I would say monitor it, listen to our show, get the data, and find your entry point, because that's one that I think could see a lot of buyouts, is National Treasures and that laundry tag one. Because remember, it only takes one buyer, and there's a lot of buyers that missed out on Mahomes the first time, and they're like the whole fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I got it right with a small correction.
You did. You nailed it. Let me ask you a question, and I will promise to not say anything. Okay.
The most hate I get on YouTube is because I have this stupid thing behind my head.
Yeah, but it covers a like electoral outlet. It is what it is. So
do people know I didn't design the house?
No, they think you designed it. They think you are. You're hiding out in Mexico from the Federales, and you've designed it. You're an interior decorator. So here's my question for you. Okay, for those folks who tune in Monday morning to get a jump on the trading, on the market, on the fractional space, and may not listen to our show, I will not say anything. You have a theory about Giannis. Okay? You have a theory about Giannis. I think Giannis is fantastic, and the proof is in the pudding.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think the Brooklyn Nets are going to win the championship next.
No, dude, I'm being serious.
I think the Bucks are going to get to the 8th seed very low. Go ahead.
No, I'm being serious. Listen, Giannis, he had a huge buyout here. Talk about Giannis. Talk about the people who are like, wow, that card was sitting there for a little while. What's with the buyout now? What are you seeing in Giannis's game? And then, I don't know if you could pull it up, or if you can, you can. If you can't, no big deal. We can talk about it. There is another Giannis that I want to bounce off a little volleyball, me and you, kind of like, what do you think about the other Giannis that's there? But give folks your thesis about Giannis, okay? If you can't, no big deal. I know which one it is. We can talk about it.
Guys at Collectable, if you are listening, I know you guys do listen. It's a lot easier to access through mobile than it is desktop. So it's been a little bit harder for me recently to pull stuff up. Maybe it's my PC, but just saying. My theory on Giannis. First off, can I be honest with people? When I first downloaded the Collectable app, I invested in the Jordan Fleer, sold that. But I also had $30 in this card. So the way I found out about this offer cage was I got a text message from them, the automated one, which said, like, do you want to vote yes or no for the buyout? I voted no. And the reason that I think is NBA is very media-centric, where Kendrick Perkins, Jalen Rose, Jay Williams, Charles Barkley, Shaq, they control a lot of the narratives of what the average consumer thinks, so to speak. So we've heard about LeBron, we've heard about Durant, Harden, but in my eyes, the one team that doesn't get enough credit is the world champions. And they got better from last year. Whether you guys like it or not, they are a better team. They dealt with some issues and they had COVID and all that stuff. But there's that stat when Drew, Chris Middleton, and Giannis play on the court together, they win. They win. I think they're like 17-1, 17-2. I don't know the exact stats, but they win. And in the beginning of the season, they didn't have those guys on the court. But point is, that team is better. And they got Serge Ibaka, which I think is going to make them even better defensively. Giannis is better. Giannis has a mid-range game. So why do I say that? with Giannis, I think he's our generation's MJ. I think he's going to go on to win 4, 5, 6, 7 championships. And what's crazy to me is how obvious and in front of our face it is. We want to find the shiny new thing with Trey and Luka. But the fact of the matter is, and maybe it's a small difference, but that difference is what matters. Giannis is head and shoulders above those guys. He's in that category of Durant, LeBron, and Curry. The thing that he has that those other guys don't have is time. Those guys are past their prime when he's in his prime. So in front of me is sitting a guy who I think he's the best in the game, 30 and below. He's a hard worker. He's got values, morals, ethics. So you don't have to worry about any off the field stuff. He works on his game. He's improved year over year, and he's the world champion, and his team's better. To me, it's a no-brainer to just invest in the best versus trying to go, out-trick the system and find, the next who's who.
I like it. So I don't know if you're able to pull it up. Remember, it's different cards, guys. Obviously,
the flawless one, gorgeous card. I can't, dude.
No, I think there's an immaculate on here. I think there's an immaculate gold, right? BGS 9, and it's a much lower level. You got it? You're able to pull it up there?
I got it.
Nice. So take a look.
We'll keep talking. I need a second to log in, but they added a login thing. Let's go.
Nice. So this
well done, guys.
There you go. So this the Giannis.
Look at how different this looks.
Hey now,
Gage, they've redone the whole desktop version.
There you go. I know, a lot of data there, and you're able to search by the player there. Hey now, look at this. Hey now.
So
maybe filter by Giannis. Search for Giannis. Details coming soon. Anyway, guys, this particular Giannis. Here's my take on it, and then we'll get Andrews. He is a Giannis expert. He watches a lot of the games, and it IPO'd. I think it was 4,950 shares at 10. Last week it was trading at 849, up to 904, which means the market cap is still lower than what it IPO'd at. It IPO'd at like 49,500. Now it's sitting there, closer to 45. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those cards. You see it? It's got a gorgeous patch, right? You can click on that bad boy, right? But here's go ahead.
When I click on it, it tells me to download the app. I have the app, but then I can't type in the number.
Oh, nice. Well, listen, you can see the card. It's a gorgeous card, but here's the difference, right?
Collectable. They just rolled this out. There's way more data to it. This is what people need. This looks like a full out trading portfolio. So I'm really excited for this. And by the way, guys, if you do use the desktop version and you've noticed the updates, email Collectable or DM them on Instagram to give them your feedback, because I know companies want to hear how you like it. Sorry, Cage. I just wanted to make that PSA.
No, yeah, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is one of those cards now that if the buyout for the National Treasure was $145,000, that means this one here is trading for 1/3 of that. And it's got a gorgeous patch. But as we see with the National Treasures cards for Luka, for Zion, for Patrick Mahomes, for Giannis, that seems to be the one that the certain type of buyout buyer or heavy hitter is looking for. I happen to like Immaculate, but it is not in that same sphere, and buyouts seem to be coming more for those 100+ six-figure type cards than a $40,000 card. So it's the only negative. That said, it's below IPO price. So, you would think that there's probably going to be a, rising tide on Giannis type of thing. Somebody's resetting the market on Giannis with a buyout. You'd think that people will look, okay, well, that one's got a buyout. What's going to happen now with the other one that's on here? And you saw it starting to tick up a little bit in trading last week from $8.49 a share the week before up to $9.04.
Do you have any merit in that sense? Like, how do I word this? People love National Treasures because it's a true RPA, and even though Immaculate might be a nicer patch, people still prefer National Treasures.
Yeah, I mean, I think National Treasures is where people go. It's what people look at. That's the deal.
Let me give you guys some prices. I mean, the buyout was for $140K for the National Treasures. The Giannis Immaculate is gorgeous patch, like a gorgeous auto, patch. Same grade. It's a $44,000 card, just to give you guys the disparity. Both rookies, National Treasures, Immaculate, 140, 44.
Yep. I mean, nice cards, but yes, that's the thing. And I mean, it has me looking, right? So he's not Giannis. Remember last week we mentioned, or 2 weeks ago we mentioned Donovan Mitchell. He's got National Treasures on here, right? And it came down. It came down last week from $4.05 to $3.37 per share. I could pull up the numbers on that. We can come back to that in a second, but it's just it's how your brain starts to process it. Well, if National Treasures are going to be the ones that are going up, right? If National Treasures is the one that people want, all right. Well, what if Utah starts to make a run? Is that a card you might want to swing a little bit of some money in to watch because people are going to look for Donovan Mitchell. That might be it. And we talked about potential trade offseason, the whole 9 yards. So two things I want to jump into. I have like 8 from this week's data, but just 2 things really quick. Joe Montana rookie PSA 10. I own one of these, so it's always, I got to make sure I tell folks that when we trade it. Everybody knows a couple months back there was a Leland's auction of one for, in the 60s, 68, whatever it was. And the Montana PSA 10 rookie on here has been trading for below its $10, 65,000 market price, 6,500 shares, $10, has been trading below that and below that Leland's comp for a while. And just like some of the other things we talk about, right? We talk about, these other comps, and it takes a while for people to realize it. This one, I think the trading was like 8.7 per share, just 80, it was the same for many, many weeks. I don't know if it wasn't trading. I don't know if this is the first week back trading, people actually trading it, but it went from 8.7 to 10.15. So jumped right up over its IPO price, and it's back up to about $66,000 market cap, which is almost in line, still slightly below, but almost in line with the Leland's comp, and lower than some of the prices it was doing, last year. I bring this up not because it is, wow, let's jump on it now after it had that little bit of a bump in its first week back, right? It's more of, if you're going to invest in young QBs, if you're going to be somebody who's prospecting, we've talked about this on our show. It's also a smart strategy to put a little bit into the GOATs, put a little something into somebody like Montana. And here's my thought on that, right? My thought is Herbert's going down, Mahomes is going down, but Burrow is going up, and Matthew Stafford is going up. There's always going to be someone who's young and the cards are going up. And that's going to bring up the value of the cards. But if you watch the last couple of weeks, the auction prices for Joe Burrow have been astounding. People have been paying crazy money for Burrow cards. And basically what it does is it starts to move the floor up on these prices here. And, someone's going to win the Super Bowl. Their cards are going to be where they are, like Mahomes, reset the pricing. And then Brady's cards, obviously, he's the anomaly, go up. But what I think people are realizing when I look at that Montana card is not just the comps and the Leland's and the ones that were before that. It's just every year it kind of happens, right? There's another young person, another young quarterback, whether it be Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You're seeing all these card prices go up. And eventually people will take a step back and say, oh, if the Burrow cards are selling for this much, wait, what's a Montana rookie? What's a Joe Montana rookie card go for? And then you find your way back to the guys who are 4-0 in a Super Bowl, not somebody who's just making their first one. And listen, Burrow could win today, and he could win 12 more Super Bowls, and the investment's sound, and it's great. But I think really what you're seeing there is the thought process play out as these young guys, as the price goes up, all of a sudden let's take a look back at, the GOATs who've already done it and reset the pricing on those guys. It's kind of a cycle that we see, right? Shoot.
Cage, and this has loopholes, but tell me if you agree with this. Investing in cards and buying a Rolex or buying a nice bottle of wine, is that all in the same area of collecting? Right? You see some people they buy a Rolex not just to flex it. Some people do, but it's a store of value as well because they don't lose. Is that so?
Yep.
Montana, right? He's not doing anything, but we all hear inflation, all this stuff's coming down the pike. Isn't also owning something that's one of the greatest players of all time? What's cool about the Montana card that I think is underrated is it's the only Montana card people go for. Yep. There's something to that. Even Jordan, Jordan has, some people love his patch autos. Some people love his refractors. Some people love the Fleer. Some people love the Star. Montana is like, that's his one card.
Yep.
Is there something like, I think of it as like buying a Rolex. It might not go up like crazy. It's definitely not going to go down in value, and it's a good store of value. Is there something there?
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think I would love to poke a hole in it, but I don't see any holes in it at all. It's one of those, handful of players that can be considered a GOAT at that position and was considered the GOAT before Tom Brady. I think Brady has taken that
And doesn't
ground,
have any asterisks. Like, I compare Montana to Bonds, but Bonds has asterisks next to his name. Is that?
I mean, for baseball, I'm trying to think of who you compare Montana to. It had to be somebody
Mantle.
who won a lot. Mantle, I guess. Yeah, I mean,
Definitely Mantle. He's just not as old.
I like the analysis. I definitely do. I like the analysis.
A
One.
little data. Do you want me to go through
shoot.
the data real quick? So,
well, listen, you throw out Mantle. Let me throw Mantle. Let me just do a quick Mantle, right? Quick Mantle, right? Because and then you can go through all the data and we'll do all that fun stuff. So we talked about 2 Mantles last week, right? But there are more than those 2 Mantles on the platform, right? So this is just one of those kind of like creative, zigzag type of deal, right? So we talked about the 2 Mantles last week, which were which ones were those? I have them in my notes. Oh, the 60 and the 64. And we talked about them. They are below their comps. Even with this week's trading, they're still slightly below their comps, but they went up. The 60 went up almost 10%, and the 64 went up 23% after we talked about them. And we specifically mentioned those 2. We didn't talk about the Mantle Bowman basket that's also trading on here, right? And if you want to look at the pricing on that, I believe that basket, it's the 1954 Bowman PSA 8 basket of 3 of them. I believe that IPO'd at $10 a share, 50-50. So basically $50,000 for the basket of 3, and it's traded around that 10 for a pretty long time. And this week, for some reason, I don't know if it's people moved their Mantle money out of this and into the 2 we talked about, but for some reason this one fell below its IPO price and to, I believe, its lowest trading price since the IPO.
You're talking about the 1953 Bowman PSA basket, 2 of them.
I think it's 54 Bowman baskets.
Yes, and there's 3 of them. Okay. You're right.
There's 3 of them. PSA 8s. Nice card, cool card. But yeah, it went down to 855, losing almost 15% week over week. And you're talking about, what is that now? In the 40s, you're talking about for
43
for market cap on that one. So, if Mantle's 60 and 64s are moving, this one you might be able to find kind of like a little somebody exited for liquidity or whatever the story is on that one. So go ahead, let's do the data. We talk about Mantle, so awesome. I figured I'd bring up some Mantle.
So the data is relatively flat. The one thing that stuck out to me, and if you guys are on Instagram, you probably saw this. Soccer is making some moves. It's up 3% again this week. It's a bigger market as well. So 3%, I think it was up the last few weeks. So soccer's making some moves. Golf dropped. Baseball's down a little bit. Hockey's down a little bit. But, I mean, really the biggest thing from Modern that's in here are 2 things. Herbert continued his sell-off, down 8% this week. The week before is down 7%, 10%, and 7% the week before that. It's a typical off-season retreat in prices. Nothing crazy. I kind of start thinking after 20 to 30%, you might see a bounce back week. And another thing is Jason Dominguez, Cage. Mm-hmm. He got that Shine bought his card for an astronomical amount.
It's like $500,000. Yep.
And on that news, 35% in the first week of trading after the massive superfractor sale. So
what do you think about that?
And that's just people put some money in prospecting. I don't know enough to criticize or question, but I think you could do a lot more 500K. But I've never had 500K, so how can I know?
So, I mean, listen, what it shows you guys is that, you have this effect, right? When one card of somebody goes for a price, it resets. It has this rubber band kind of pull on the other cards that are out there. And, it's what we talked about with Giannis, right?
I've never had success in that strategy though. When I if I buy after an influencer buys, I'm usually the exit liquidity on other people's stuff. So
Okay.
when I think a lot of the times when people have such big profiles and personas, a lot of the times they're not buying because of fundamentals, they're buying because of show.
Okay.
So but I don't know, because from what I hear, Jason Dominguez is doing terrible in minor leagues. There's a lot of better prospects that are much closer to being all-stars or superstars. So fundamentally, you would say that's a bad decision, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it
100%. I mean,
And
this
then
is
buying
different because
into
he's
this
prospect.
run up would be an even worse decision for our fractional investors because they've missed the boat and now they have to buy at a higher price on someone that I don't even think is valued at the previous price.
100%. Listen, you guys, you trade. We have a lot of fun stuff, but I'm going to take it. Can I take a couple minutes and take this in a little different direction than we normally do? Maybe a little storytelling time, right? So, a little storytelling time.
No one does it better than you, brother. Dude, you had the Whatnot people up in arms today.
It's sort of, I had some fun. So it's sort of like, a 10-year deal, right? A 10-year anniversary of this in 2022. So maybe there'll be some more of it. And I promise this story will relate back to an offering on Collectable, guys. So, but it's one of those things, right? It's one of the things that makes the hobby cool. There are stories about it, right? There are pieces of history that we are collecting and that we can tell stories about. But this story, it does have what I'm going to say, sort of like a cautionary tale, because it's. I want to counterbalance. We talk about buying these cards, these rare cards, these high-end cards, because that's the ones that people are after. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell a little bit of a historical, story here and then bring up the card. So I've talked about this on our show, not in as much detail, but you'll remember the name because it's an interesting one. The 2012 Ohio Black Swamp Find.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
and if you don't remember, it's okay. But basically, it was a massive discovery of E98 caramel cards. That's a set from 1910. They look similar to the famous T206 cards. It has a Honus Wagner, it has Ty Cobb, it has all the stars of the day, but it's a caramel card instead of a tobacco card. And it's amazing to think about this because it's 2012 and it's a 1910. You can have those, buddy. It's a 1910 card. Which what that means is that 102 years later, there's this find of these cards, right? And just to give you an idea here of how crazy this was, prior to the Black Swamp find in Ohio, PSA had graded about 600 total cards from this 1910 E98 set, right? A lot of them were common cards and you name it, the whole deal. But after the Black Swamp find, the PSA pop had virtually doubled, basically doubling the amount of cards from this set that were graded. So obviously it was surprising, right? And, you'll see some common cards, but to find this and to find them all at once and to find them, not just find them, but find them in such high grade, it was pretty nuts, right? Because every card was a high grade card, right? Several 9s, even 10. There was even a flawless Honus Wagner PSA 10 part of the group. The cards were in such good condition because they allegedly they believed to be remained untouched, right? In in a house, right? Brought to light, graded, sold. So what happened? There was an auction on this. The Wagner that was pristine 10 sold for $250,000. A PSA 9 Cobb sold for $40,000. These are older prices. These auctions happened a while back. But what's funny about it is it actually hurt the value of these cards because without this find, think about this. Without this find, a PSA 10 Wagner E98, $1 million card at least seems high. Obviously we know what the mantle sells for. But adding another 10 to the hobby, adding that to the population report, it's crazy, right? A PSA 10 from this. So here you are, you're the guy who has one or two of these high end, and all of a sudden there's another one in there. it's doubling the population. It's doubling the high end stuff. And you thought you had a pop 1 or a pop 2, and all of a sudden it becomes a pop 2 or a pop 3.
Could long term be a good thing? Short term, I agree, but long term, do you think that there might be some benefit? No.
So there is some benefit because people put Black Swamp Find on the slab. Some of the cards actually were slab with that on it, and it brought some notoriety to the set that it wasn't there. I mean, obviously people were more about the tobacco cards, right? But what's funny is after selling for $240,000 in 2012, the card went for under $100,000 in 2017. Under 100 2017. So I'm sure it will go back up if people decide to sell it now, because 2017 is kind of one of those things.
Say those
right?
numbers again.
Sure. The PSA 10 Wagner, which I would think when there's, before this Black Swan Find was probably a 7-figure card. It sold for $240,000 in 2012, and then in 2017 sold again for $100,000. But that's before the big card boom and whatnot, right? So I'm sure, if it came to market again, it'll be pretty crazy. So what's the lesson, right? What's the lesson? While a lot of these pre-war cards are rare, it just takes one crazy find like this, lightning bolt, to kind of, throw things in there, right? You got a Ty Cobb T206 and PSA 7. If a dozen 9s were found, all of a sudden your 7's not the greatest thing in the world. That said, right? I don't know if you heard what I was talking about here. I'm talking about the 1910 E98. So let's take a look at the pop report for these. PSA pop report, right? And we're going to throw it in here. 1910 E98.
And guys, for context,
Mr. Cobb.
Ty Cobb on Collectable, 227,000 market. I just want to give people it's actually down 24% all time.
And that's why I looked at it, and that's why we're telling the story of the Black Swamp Find. It's got a cool history to it, right? And, if you go on PSA's website, guys, and you just type in 1910 E98, the first picture that pops up is the Honus Wagner we're talking about in Gem Mint 10. It says Black Swamp Find right there on the picture on PSA's website. It really is an amazing, cool card with an amazing, cool story. Ty Cobb. So the Ty Cobb red, there was Black Swamp Finds. Only 9s. There are 3 10s. 3 10s. None in the Black Swamp Find. 14 9s. All right? So this card IPO'd on Collectable at a market cap of $301,250, $10 a share. It fell last week to this week from $9 a share to $7.55 a share. I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody found a fourth one of these somewhere and just nobody telling anybody. I don't know if the black. And now we got what will be the next Black Swamp Find? Like the Green Marsh Find. I don't know if there's another find somewhere.
Age.
Yep. Shoot,
if not for the Black Swamp Find, would Honus Wagner and Ty Cobb values be closer to each other?
Well, listen. The difference between the Wagner and the Cobb here is that there was a Wagner 10 and there wasn't a Cobb 10 in the Black Swamp Find. So it didn't impact the 10 pop. Okay? Whereas the Wagner, it did. You understand? So it added that high-level card. There was another one added to that 10. The 9s on
how
Cobb
many 10s are there?
Of Wagner? Let's take a look. This is the fun part about researching these things, guys. You can kind of get all the data
cards.
You want.
What's interesting about these cards is their provenance and story and narrative as much as they are the person, because no one really there's no footage of Honus Wagner even playing or Ty Cobb, really, right? So it's all narrative driven in a sense that we remember these guys and the stories behind the cards.
Yep.
Versus Mantle, people still got to see Mantle. People's grandparents talked about watching Mantle play. He's in a different category for me than these guys.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an interesting thing, man. It really is. That the Wagner Black Swamp Find it looks like that's the only 110, and prior to that there were 9 red 9s. There's orange. There's a green Black Swamp Find. There's 4 of them. So like the greens, it's pretty funny. There was 1 green Wagner, and then in the Black Swamp Find there were 4 9s found. Think about what that does, right? Think about what that does. It's pretty crazy. So anyway, the Cobb one is the one that's on Collectable. I don't see anything going on in the news that would lead me to believe that Ty Cobb has done anything to lose, 15% of his value. But that's what happened this week on this particular card. The Black Swamp Fine story is 10 years old, so that's not what's contributing to the the reduction in price on this. It's just I bring this up because I don't know if you guys pay attention to the vintage market, but there was a sale of an SGC3 Honus Wagner. What do they go, $6 or $8 million, right? Just a completed sale. I think it was $6 million. And on Rally, there was a Pele PSA 9 that just sold for $1.3 million, right? So there's obviously money being put into these high-end cards, the rare ones that are out there. And this card, especially when you have those cool kind of stories to them like we have, Ty Cobb, if you look at this particular set, right, the Black Swan Find had a lot. And there were I think 18 reds found of Ty Cobb in the Black Swamp Find. Previously, there were only 31 total graded and 18 more added in.
Guys, drink every time Cage says Black Swamp Find.
I mean, right there, it's just cold. That's just what it's called. So, and I mean, if you look at the stuff, there's Cobbs, there's the blue, the green, the orange, the new ones that were found in 2012, which will not be named. The reds, the 310s. That's it. 310s that are out there. And, it's one of those things where, Ty Cobb is an all-time great. And there you go. It's one of those things where I would keep an eye on the price. And I like to look at things that could be potential for buyout. And, if I had all the money in the world, I'd buy that card. I don't have all the money in the world, though.
If I had
little fun little story
in the world,
take a look, guys. Maybe I didn't do the Black Swamp Find, maybe I didn't do it any justice. But every once in a while, you get a cool story like that with just, a cigar box or a lunch box or whatever it is. That there's a whole bunch of cards that come out, and often it's 4s and 5s, and they were played with. But I mean, to find a stack of 9s and 10s, pretty nuts, pretty crazy. Any other?
You didn't do it justice. Valuetainment and Netflix are both reaching out to us to do a card show, and I could see you being the host and narrator of the Black Swamp.
There we go. Well, I mean, listen, there's cool stories. That's what I mean.
Opening credits is Cage's hair popping out of a swamp.
Listen, you can't beat that. Come on now, can't beat that. You cannot beat it at all.
He's wearing his Goonie shirt.
Any other things? I tried to wear my Goonie shirt today. I was too fat. I literally put my Goonie shirt on today, and I was like, I can't wear it. I can't wear the Goonie shirt. I can't. I don't fit in it.
One thing I would take a look at, guys, is swing trading memorabilia, because I'll give you an example. The Kobe rookie sneakers saw a great gain, 50% this week, 45% this week, to a market cap of 161, but it's still short of the last comp at Heritage, which was 192. Point is, none of us really know how to price memorabilia. And all the people hating on Twitter, you guys don't know how to price memorabilia either, because it's hard to price. It's one of those things that you intrinsically, if you look at this item, what is something like this worth? What is Kobe's game use sneakers worth? Well, to someone who thinks LeBron's the greatest and doesn't really care for Kobe, maybe a few $1,000. Someone who doesn't even collect memorabilia, probably nothing. They think they'd give you $100 for it. But Kobe's biggest fan, 250, 300. Point is, it's very difficult to price this. Cards, at least you have a more of an apples to apples comparison. What you could do if you watch the memorabilia market is swing trade these assets. Sometimes they're up 50%, sometimes they're down 50%. Maybe an opportunity.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Any other fun ones you want to talk about? I mean, we talked about the memorabilia upcoming. You talk about there's a Trae Young and a Luka offering coming. You want to go through those really quick if you have the details on those? And we were talking about those.
I don't care too much about game used of players that are still playing. Is that wrong? Like, it doesn't do much for me. That like.
You mean because there's a lot there? Are they going to have more of them? There's going to be more.
Yeah,
of them out there?
And there's no provenance, so I don't know. Even if I'm paying, I don't know what I'm paying for at the moment, other than their game used, because like the story isn't written yet. You know what I mean? It could be the best shoe he has now, but he has so many moments in the future that people forget about this shoe, but I paid top dollar when it first came out, right? Because the shoe or the memorabilia is associated with a moment. And that moment, like right now, Luka's best moment could be shoes from that 3-pointer in the bubble against the Clippers, right? Iconic. But what if he goes on and hits a 3-pointer to win game 7 of the NBA Finals one day? I want those sneaks, not the ones that are kind of irrelevant from previous years.
All right, that makes sense.
So let me go through it, though.
100%.
So Tuesday, Babe bows out, Type 1 photograph, 50% market cap with 27% retained. That's perfect. Perfect. I think this is a no-brainer IPO. Awesome card. When you guys see the photography, the story behind it. Apparently, Babe was very sick at this point, and he, was barely walking, standing on a bat. Cage told me all this.
Yeah, it is.
He
borrowed a bat. He borrowed a bat from Cleveland Indians pitcher. He was leaning on a bat like a king.
So
Nat Fine. Nat Fine was the photograph on that, and he won the Pulitzer Prize for it. A jumbo version of it sold, and I think it was Hunt Auctions for like $160,000. That's a 10x14. And more recently, a smaller one sold out of Nat Fine's personal collection for like $60,000. It would have sold for more, but I knew who was going to buy it, and I didn't bid him up.
Yeah.
So,
it's no secret. It was Eric Myers.
Eric
He works
Myers.
at PWCC. Howley Hustle. He posted it all over his Instagram and Facebook. It was like, that's his grail. You know how they ask, like, what are people's grails?
Yep. 100%. Just a real nice, piece of history, and the market cap being put on this by Collectable is lower than a very recent sale. So I expect that one to sell out. It's one where, I'd love to get it on. It's a really nice piece.
I love that lesson and experience, like seeing how Eric wanted to buy that, because true collectors, they look for stuff like that, and they want it for years and years and years, and they'll pay really within a range. It's not like I'll only pay here when they see the item they want. And this is an item that Cage, this is a buyout candidate one day. This is someone wants it at one point. And David Bing, 50 greatest NBA players, autograph, lithograph. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what David Bing is. 50 greatest players of what, previous century? Anthony Davis is definitely better than this guy.
You know how the what do you call it? The NBA just did their 75.
Yes.
Right. So I don't know whether they have lithographs of them, the whole deal, but I remember this. It was one where they basically did this lithograph. I guess Bing is the artist on it, and it's a collectible. It's like, I remember folks talking about this, and it has, it's the 50 greatest players from the 51st years from 1946 to 1996, and they're all signed. It's like their heads. You know what I mean? It's a picture of their heads. It's a really cool kind of thing, and I think it has 49 instead of the 50. By the way, obviously. And
fun fact: this David Bing guy, he was roommates with Jim Boeheim at Syracuse.
Look at that.
7-time NBA All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, 2-time All-NBA First Team, NBA Scoring Champion in 1968. So, pretty accomplished player. He's from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I apologize, Bing.
So Maravich died in 1988, so he was unable to sign this. So this thing did not. This thing was created after after Maravich passed away. So I mean, you take a look at this 1996 NBA greatest player signed. What are they market cap on it?
89.5.
Yeah, I mean it's these things. They I think there's 50 of them. There's a sales history on them, but I don't see any sales past like 2020 on these things, because I don't think they come up that often. So it'd be interesting to try to find a comp for it. But it's a pretty cool piece. And guys, buyouts are interesting. They kind of work both ways. And let me leave you with one to kind of look at. It's a card that I'm a fan of. It's a card I wanted to buy a couple of times. Keep your eye on this. Keep your eye on it for a comp that you're going to see coming up. And I don't know whether the price has moved the way that it's moved, because I don't know. People don't think he's going to be a record setter anymore, but I happen to love this card. You know what I'm talking about. My favorite perforated card, Tiger Woods, Sports Illustrated Kid, PSA 10. That's my second favorite. But the Tiger Woods, And guys, if you take a look at this one has a history on
I don't
Collectable.
get how that's your favorite card. I don't get it. I remember the conversation we had. I don't mean to kind of,
That's
give you a
cool.
speed bump on your story or your
No,
narrative,
it's all
but
right.
what
It's
do you
okay.
love about it?
It predates any other offering of him by 4 years. There are no other cards of his out there. I mean, there are, the
It's not
Masters
even
one.
like a
Just
licensed
this is
release, right? It's
it's
like
Sports
you take it.
Illustrated, and it's a perforated card. But you've seen those. I mean, look how much the Serena Williams one went for, right? And you're seeing other ones, so it's more of a main. You know what the Rock is selling for, and it's got his red shirt. The standard Tiger, real young Tiger from 1996. That's why I love it. I like the ones where there's a clear cut one, and you see look at what the Pele sold for, right? 1958. And you know, people that are finding 57 ones that are coming out of the woodwork. I don't think that's going to
Are you
happen for
kicking
Tiger
yourself?
Woods.
Because a part of like being a collector is you own that card, but then you discovered that there actually were earlier versions of the card, which led you to sell your card to get into the earlier versions, and now the later version. This is like a game of musical
Yeah, it's
chairs.
weird. I mean, listen, it is. I wouldn't say kick myself, but it's a fun journey you go through with price discovery and discovery on cards that people were not paying attention to that many years ago. This Tiger Woods is one of those cards, especially in high grade the way that it is. But here's the story on this one. Okay, if you take a look at this one IPO'd for $23,500. Okay, $23,500, $10 per share. Okay, it has a fun story because the Collectable shareholders on this received a buyout offer. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a buyout offer received for $34,500.
It was
Right after
rejected.
the
I
IPO.
offered.
Not only was it rejected, right? It was rejected by 91% of the vote. 91% of people voted no on this. And yet this week, after being 15, 14, last week $13.30 a share, it's down to $11 per share, which means it's trading at approximately 26 and change market value, right? 26 and change market value, well below the buyout offer that was offered and rejected by 91% of the folks that are out there. So it's fun. We got to kind of look at this stuff, right? Has it gone up, then down too far? Is there a correction? Keep an eye on this. And here's why I say to keep an eye on it. PWCC Premier Auction has one of these ending in a week, 6 days from today. It's already at $18,000 plus, obviously, the buyer's premium, which puts it at $21,600. So it's already close, one or two more bids, and all of a sudden this thing at the price that it's come down. Remember, it was $13.30 a share, which is a significant far cry, market value than the 11 per share, $26,000 that it's at now. So keep an eye on that one. It's just another one that I kind of noticed in going through the data, and I'm like, all right, this one took a little bit of a dip. Did he run his car off the road? No. Did I see a mugshot somewhere? Did he break his legs? I didn't see any of that this week, and yet the card was down, a hefty chunk of change, 15, 17%.
Man, you take some shots below the belt. I'll tell you.
What's below the belt there? Run the car off the.
He's already run his car off the road twice. Don't make our fans relive that.
Well, then I mean, it would be reasonable to think it might happen again, and that's the reason why his card came down as much as it did.
Lucky number 7, they say bad things happen in threes. Luca Nation, we love you. We love doing this fractional report. Shout out to Collectable. What's been fun, just like a simple example, is to see how a company evolves and innovates and improves over a short period of time, and it makes you optimistic about what the future could bring. We saw that this morning with Whatnot, even subtle tweaks to how you could run a giveaway right through their app. Same thing. I'm very bullish, as they say, on the web version, the trading version of Collectable, where you're going to see all of this data for yourselves, guys. Where you'll see what cards are trending up, down. You'll be able to sort. There's going to be a lot of really, really exciting data that's available to you guys. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Great job, guys. Hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah,